Hello there. Very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Eddie Lane. And of course, as I usually say every time we come on this program, is that this program is really dedicated to highlight the progress and development taking place under the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration. And of course, we use the opportunity to debunk and to set the record straight when it comes to the lies and misinformation emanating from the opposition, the desperate opposition camp, if I should say. This evening, I'm joined by the Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Suzanne Rodrigues. Suzanne, it's a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Pleasure to be here with you, Eddie. And good evening to
Right,
your
so
viewers.
we're going to get straight into this almost immediately. And I want to use a little bit of our time, at least to start, to focus on what has been happening over the past year. We are in, well, days merely away from the first anniversary, the first year of this new People's Progressive Party civic administration in office. And I can say to you, um, you know, Guyanese are excited. Guyanese have been excited. Guyanese have been very welcoming of what has been happening. You will know more than I do because you've been traveling, you've been moving to several parts of the country. And if I can say before, before I dig into or to ask you to respond, I want to use the opportunity to congratulate you and the Honorable Colin Crowell, the Minister of Housing. Um, you guys have distributed 6,000 house lots and maybe counting in the past, what, 11 months or so. Um, Up I think, barely made it to 4,000 in 5 years.
Yes, Eddie, this is an exciting time for us. It is an exciting time for Guyanese. I think that our government has done a tremendous job over the past year, and I think Guyanese can be very pleased with the work that we've been doing so far. In the housing sector, especially, we are well on stream to surpass our target for this year. The previous administration had distributed a total of 7,000 house lots in their 5 year term. And before the end of 2020, so before we complete our first calendar year in office, we will distribute over 10,000 house lots. We have already distributed over 6,000, and we are well on our way to surpassing our target for our first year. So we are very, very proud of the accomplishment in the housing sector. We did say to Guyanese that we will deliver in the sector. You know very well that the president is a former minister of housing, and we are continuing with his legacy. And the housing sector has always been a pillar of any PPPC administration because we believe, and it is a right for Guyanese to have access to affordable housing. And there's so much spin-off, economic spin-off that takes place in the housing sector. And so it's not just about providing housing for our people, but in the housing sector, we are able to pump a lot of money into our economy through investment in infrastructural works and the construction of housing units. Thousands of jobs have been created already, and this is a sure way. The housing industry and the construction industry is a sure way to get the economy going again, to get people employed, to get sales on hardware and other items, construction items up. So it certainly helps the economy to turn over. And of course, it makes people very, very happy. And over the past 2 days, with our outreach at the National Stadium there, which is our fourth for this year alone, people are tremendously happy, Eddie. And even those who don't receive or haven't received their house lots as yet, they are very, very optimistic. You can see the optimism in them, and they have a sense of confidence that our government will deliver, and that hope that they have of receiving their house lot that they probably once lost, had given up hope that anybody was paying attention to them or that they would ever get through with their application. There is now this sense of renewed hope in our government, in our administration, and people are looking forward. So they're not completely unsatisfied that they didn't receive something over the last 2 days, but they understand that we are working to address that backlog, and the new applicants keep coming to us. And that is a demonstration of people's confidence in us, in our ministry, in our government, because about 75% of the new applications that we have received is from young people. And that is a very, very good sign. People between the ages of 21 and 39. 75% of the new applicants is between that age range. And so it shows a tremendous confidence in our government. And I want to encourage young people and I want to encourage all Guyanese to put in that application. And our government will definitely deliver in the housing sector.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. And and that is just one area of the progress and development that have been taking place under the People's Progressive Party civic government. Like you said, His Excellency was once Minister of Housing. Matter of fact, I think he's been one of the most successful housing ministers in this country. I can
Absolutely.
recall the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, um, the Honorable St. Vincent and the Grenadines, rather, the Honorable Ralph Gonzalez, coming to Guyana to inspect our housing model, and he regarded it at that time under the leadership of now President Irfan Ali as housing minister as the best housing model in the Caribbean. you know, um, Tremendous amount of people would have received house lots. And, we went through and through so many times discussing the importance and the benefits, the tremendous benefits of one owning a piece of land that they call a house lot. And that's something we can talk about repeatedly because, you know, think about it. Having a piece of land, a house lot, you can get a mortgage from the bank. If you build a house on that property and you don't have a mortgage, you can use that property to get a loan, maybe to start a business, and
Yeah.
that is just you as the individual. Then there are the spill-off benefits for the construction sector and so many other sectors.
Eddie, by the time we get to the end of our first term, I think this would be the largest transfer of wealth to the people of our country. And what we did or what we are doing in the housing sector is going through this some methodology in doing this. We inherited a huge backlog, as you know, when we came into office in August of last year, and we started to do an assessment of what the needs are, what the demand is. We found that there's a backlog of 70,000 applicants. And so we had to get to work immediately. We had to hit the ground running immediately because we know we had promised 50,000 lots and we have every intention of achieving that target. And we are well on stream to achieving that target and maybe even surpassing it. And His Excellency has made the resources available, the financial resources available for us to do the investment in our schemes because we, you know, we need that investment to put in there so that we can develop the housing schemes in a way that people expect it to be developed with the necessary infrastructure, with the access to utilities, building neighborhood communities, sustainable communities. So we need the support, obviously, of His Excellency, and we also benefit from his vision. But we have done some strategic things from the time we took office, which shows how we are going to address that gap that has been left there in the housing sector by the previous administration. And so we did a few things immediately when we took office last year. We made the policy decisions early last year to start to put the wheels in motion to achieving our targets. So we removed VAT from water. We restored the water subsidy to pensioners. We remove VAT from construction materials. We increase the mortgage relief from 15 million to 30 million. We raised the NBS ceiling from 12 million to 15 million to give borrowers more scope. And because of the aggressive housing drive that we've been on, the banks have responded, and all of the banks have lowered their interest rates. And so for a low income mortgage now, people can borrow for as low as 4% from any bank. I believe all the banks are offering that now, not just NBS, but all the banks are offering that low interest rate, because we have said repeatedly that it's not just about transferring a piece of land to Guyanese, but we want to encourage home ownership. And so we had to make these policy decisions to make it easier for people to access loans, to make it more affordable for people to be able to construct their homes. And in many cases, we are doing the construction, constructing thousands of homes so that people can just purchase a home and get that roof over their head as quickly as possible, especially young professionals and members of our discipline services and single parents. So we're trying to help these people to and encourage them to buy a unit because it's the fastest way that they can get a roof over their heads, that they can own their own homes. And it's also a way of ensuring that our housing schemes are fully occupied, because we know that some people don't feel safe in some of the schemes that have a low occupancy. And so going forward, we want to address that, and we want to encourage people to build. And in many cases, we are doing the construction through private developers to occupy those schemes so that they can be fully developed, and so that we can move to different phases in our infrastructural development, because it's hard for us to upgrade the roads all the way to asphalt or concrete if people are still doing their construction. And so the longer people take to move into a scheme and to build their homes, the longer it takes for us to do that investment in the scheme, to do the upgrading works. And so it's hand in hand. It takes a comprehensive effort in order for us to get our housing schemes to that desirable stage where it is complete and fully equipped with all the necessary utilities and playgrounds and all of these things, which is what we want for our housing sector and what we want for Guyanese to be able to live in dignity, to be happy, to be able to raise their children in their own homes. And as Guyana transforms over the next few years, and as we see an influx of investment and foreigners, our government and our president, we've said relentlessly that we want Guyanese to benefit first. We want to make our people comfortable. And so while there is a tremendous focus in the oil and gas sector and in the agricultural sector, and there is competing interest for land, we will make sure that we have land available for ordinary Guyanese to be able to access affordable housing. And I'm extremely proud of the allocation exercise that we just completed at the stadium, because it was strictly for low income earners. Those 1,000 plots of land went strictly to our low income earners, who are the people that need it the most. They need government support, they need government's intervention, and of course, they need subsidized housing. And we could think of no better use of land than to prop up our most vulnerable communities, and the poorer class, the working class, and the people who need it the most. So I think that allocation exercise was very fitting for our first year in office, and it shows our commitment to the housing sector. It shows our commitment to the working class people, which is a philosophy and an ideology of the People's Progressive Party Civic, always supporting the poorer class and always supporting our working people.
And Susan, I want to make the point that the distribution of house lots under the People's Progressive Party Civic traditionally has always been a process that is very fair, transparent, and equitable. where every single Guyanese, once you meet the requirements in terms of being qualified for a house lot, you're given that opportunity. And what are the qualifications? I guess you can talk more about the requirements for someone to be able to access a house lot in Guyana. I think the first one being a citizen of the country. I can say to you,
Eddie, that's
your
like no
political,
qualification. That's like no requirement. You're born in Guyana. You have a right to affordable housing, to owning a piece of land, and the only other qualification is that you don't own property prior to receiving your allocation from government or from the ministry. That's it, and that's because it's subsidized. It is so heavily subsidized that people who can obviously afford to buy property through a private investment can benefit from a government program. So that's it. That's the only requirement, that you don't own a property and that you're Guyanese. It's as simple as that. And as long as you are 21 years and older, you can put in that application.
and good. So that's it. So your political affiliation, your geography, your religion, your medical condition are not requirements. None of them
Absolutely not. And I said that, in my address yesterday. And all of the media houses that were there, I said, look around. You guys can take a walk around here and look at the beneficiaries who are sitting in our audience. It is a reflection of Guyana. All of the faces that you saw receiving land over the last 2 days is the faces of Guyanese. All races, all religion, gender, breaks down barriers of political affiliation. And Eddie, the housing drive that we had before this was in Linden, was in Region 10, where we allocated 400 house lots, a total that represents more than the previous administration did in 5 years. And Region 10 is supposedly their stronghold, and they neglected Region 10 for the period that they were in government, totally neglected that region. No new housing scheme in Region 10. In 2019, for example, no house lot in all of 2019. They didn't allocate a single house lot to the people of Region 10. And on one allocation exercise, we went to Region 10 and we surpassed the number of allocations they made in 5 years. We made at one event. So clearly, this is not just about us saying this or saying to the people, we're governing for all Guyanese. This is about us demonstrating through action and through the work in office that we support all Guyanese, regardless of your race, regardless of your political affiliation. We went to Linden, which didn't support us as much as they supported the APNU AFC coalition, and we delivered for the people of Region 10 because we still have to govern. That is our belief, that we are here to serve in government all of our people, all Guyanese. And so there is also a backlog in Region 10, like every other region. And so we had to go there and try to address the backlog there. And we have to go back, and we have further plans for Region 10. And we're going to clear that backlog in Region 10 and in Region 4 and in Region 3 and Region 6 and 7. And we will travel throughout the country and make house lots available, and we will do so equitably. That distribution will be equitable, and it will certainly begin by addressing the older applicants first, and then we will move forward to the more current ones. And it is certainly my hope that by the time we complete our first term in office, that we can bring the application and allocation process up to current, so that people do not have to get to middle age or to get old waiting on their house lot allocation. We're going to make sure that we satisfy that demand and that the confidence in the housing sector is restored, and we can see evidence of that already.
Thank you very much, Susan. I don't want to use all the time to focus on our housing drive. I mean, it's a fantastic program that we have as a government, and this is replicated, I dare say, across every sector. We've seen tremendous progress in the agriculture sector, for example, and we're seeing farmers returning to fields that they abandoned many years ago. And the People's Progressive Party, civic, is a government that has always been one that puts the interests of the working class, as their priority. Because we're not going to say that rice is private business, and we're not going to send home sugar workers. We don't care without thinking whether their families are going to suffer. We're not going to abandon the cash crop farmers and depend on just oil. And I don't even want to start the conversation about oil and gas because we haven't even focused on tapping the revenues of oil and gas. We have been
That's
managing a country, and I made this point previously. We have managed to roll out the Because We Care cash grant program, $3.2 billion. We have managed to distribute thousands of house lots, repair roads across this country. We're doing the bypass road, which your ministry is partly responsible for, from Diamond all the way to Mandela Avenue. We have managed to roll out our massive scholarship program and so many other initiatives that are developing the lives and livelihoods of our citizens without touching oil and gas resources, oil revenues in a COVID-19 environment where many countries are struggling, um, to really survive.
that's right. And Eddie, this thing this thing is simple. When we created our manifesto and we went to the people and we said, vote for us, that these will be our policies, these are our commitments for our 5 years in office, and the people elected us. They elected us to do that work. They elected us based on the promises that we made. And we hold ourselves with that integrity and we hold ourselves accountable to the people of our country. And we have to deliver on those commitments that we made. And this is the difference between our government and that of the coalition government. They were interested in getting into power. They were not interested in serving the people. That is the difference with a PPPC administration. We understand that we are obligated to the people of our country, and we have a genuine drive and motivation in ensuring that we deliver on our commitments. That is why we have, Eddie, on my desk here is my manifesto. It is always close to me. I have it right here. I go to it every day, and I read not only what is happening in the housing sector, but in all of the sectors. And all of the ministers are accessible. They go out into the communities, they meet the people, they consult, they find out what the issues are, and we meet at cabinet, we discuss these matters, and we make decisions in the interests of our people. We have our commitments to fulfill. We know what they are. It is our roadmap, and this is what we are using to ensure that we deliver for the people of our country. We are an administration made up of people who are confident, competent, and who have vision, and so we know where we are now and we know where we want to be in 5 years. And so we are working to ensure that we can deliver that. The problem with the previous administration is that they were just obsessed with getting into office. And then everybody was doing their own thing. There was no strategic approach to any of the sectors. Look at what they did in the housing sector. They destroyed the Ministry of Housing and Water. It came under the Ministry of Communities. Changing ministers, they had no policy on how to deliver in this sector, and everybody failed miserably. But Guyanese can feel assured and they can feel secure now, knowing that they have elected a government that is competent, a government that is committed to the task, and they can see that based on our actions over the last year and all of our accomplishments. And they can feel secure in knowing that all of the commitments that we made in our manifesto will be realized. And So the work continues, and we will ensure that those transformational projects, as well as the basic needs of our people, are met. We're not going to get carried away with any sector. All of the sectors have to thrive. The housing sector, the agricultural sector, oil and gas, mining, natural resources, all of that have to thrive. And we have to do that together. And so people have a lot to look forward to in the next 5 years. It is an exciting time for us as our country transform, and just in the housing sector alone, the tremendous transformation that will take place in that sector, opening up of new lands, new infrastructure, which gives way to people not only receiving residential allocations, but commercial lands will be opened up, new businesses will be opened up, jobs will be created, investment, public and private investment, will see Guyana really thriving and will see Guyanese benefiting. And we've also been receiving an influx of applications from the diaspora, Guyanese wanting to return home and invest in Guyana and come back here and live. And that is something that we are encouraging as well through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Housing. We are encouraging Guyanese to return home and to develop our country. And as our people become more educated and more qualified with all of the scholarships that we are offering, we want people to stay here. So we have to find jobs for them here. We want them to remain in Guyana, and we want them to work and develop our country. We don't want people to leave. We want people to stay here and develop our country. And so people have a lot to look forward to over the next 5 years. This is going to be a massive transformation that will take place, and I think it's going to be marvelous to witness. And I am privileged and extremely happy to be a part of this transformation and to be serving in this government.
Certainly, Suzanne, and we're almost out of time, but I want to touch briefly and quickly on one other initiative, and I mentioned it earlier, the Because We Care Cash Grant Program, which is rolling out across the country. I know Region 6 is starting tomorrow. We have completed Region 9, Region 2, the Essequibo Islands, Region 10, and again, this is a program that the opposition, when they were in government, they disbanded. And I made the point on two occasions, and I'll repeat for the sake of emphasis, that in 2015, when they discontinued this program, in the words of Jordan then, he was saying that the Because We Care Cash Grant Program, which was putting at that time 10,000 Guyana dollars in the hands of parents with children, well, each child in public school. Some parents benefited from more depending on the number of children. Um, he said it was fiscally unsustainable, but it was costing us $1.6 billion. But Jordan and the band of hustlers in the afternoon went ahead and built Durban Park for close to $2 billion. They increased their dietary, their food bill by over $1 billion. And they were on spending sprees all over the place. $50 million on the Bujubantum show and a whole host of things. But we're claiming that putting monies in the hands of children, the country's children, was fiscally unsustainable. I want to fast forward before I bring you in, Susan, to talk about the recent noise that they've been making. People like Aubrey Norton and the others. In the first place, there is complete incoherence in the opposition camp because
As usual.
one person saying that it's too little, one person saying it's a waste of money, and that's how it's going. But Norton is claiming that you know the money is not enough to give to parents, but in the same breath, he is saying that it's handout and it's going to make people somehow lazy because they'll become dependent on government handouts. Correct McDonald, on the other hand, is encouraging people not to participate in the exercise, including teachers. And they're claiming that it's a she. Coretta McDonald is claiming that it's a waste of public funds. And I think another one said that it's happening nowhere in the world. And I understand why she would have said that. I think it was Annette Ferguson said it's happening nowhere else in the world. Because she can't travel anywhere else in the world since her visa was taken away. So she can't experience what's happening in other places. So that is why her ill-informed statement that I think she can hardly use the internet. You know, I don't want to, I probably will see how time run and we'll probably move briefly into the scholarship program. But the Because We Care Cash Grant program is a massive program that's being rolled out. And again, there is no means test. There is no criteria save and except you having a child in the public school system. And of course, the government is even considering at this point in time whether to extend the program to parents with children in the private school system.
Eddie, this all comes back to priority. The APNU AFC never prioritized our children, never prioritized education, although they claim to be champions of education. They never saw support for our children and support for the vulnerable as a priority. And again, another stark difference between their government and ours. We are doing this because we care about our children. A fitting name of the campaign, Because We Care Cash Grant. They scrapped that initiative just because it was a PPP initiative and didn't want to give that money to our children. But like you said, they were consuming their dietary bill was $1.6 billion, which was the exact amount it would take to give each school child $10,000. But they made a case that there was no fiscal space for them to distribute this $10,000 cash grant to our school children. We said that we will restore the cash grant and that we will increase it to $50,000 in 5 years. We have restored that cash grant and we have increased it incrementally, and we will continue to increase it incrementally until we get to $50,000. So we found this fiscal space that they couldn't, because we are not wasting in government. We are prioritizing what is important to us, what is important to our vision, what is important to our government. And that's what we're doing. So we have restored that cash grant and we have increased it. We have also doubled the school uniform voucher from $2,000 to $4,000. And so parents are receiving $19,000 per child. And you can see people overwhelmed and people in tears, just happy, Eddie, that their government cares and that they know that they can rely on their government to support them. They know that their government cares. It's the same thing when they receive their house lots. People are in tears, just happy that finally they have a government that is looking out for them. They have a government that can keep their word. And that is tremendously important to people, having that security and knowing that their government will support them. Same thing with the scholarship program. And like with all of our commitments, we have to make it work. And when we made these commitments, it wasn't wild promises that we were making. We sat down, all of these initiatives were costed, and we planned it, and we knew what we had to do to make sure that we deliver. And, where there's a will, there is a way. And we had to find that way. And so, with all of our initiatives, and so the Because We Care Cash Grant is doing tremendously well. It's being very well received. People are not paying attention to what the people in the APNU AFC are saying. If they really cared about their supporters and they really cared about Guyanese, they would encourage people to go out and receive that cash grant. I can't imagine that we have to make a case for school children. I mean, if we have to make a case or we have to sell an idea to the opposition that this is a good initiative, something is wrong. How can giving a cash grant or giving support to school children be a waste? You have to really ask yourself, what type of leadership is the opposition providing? Do they really care about their supporters? Do they really care about Guyanese? Do they really care about our children? So people need to judge them based on what they're saying and based on their actions. And it's the same thing they did with the vaccines. They all went quietly, took the vaccine, protected themselves, and then question the integrity and are not encouraging people to go and receive the vaccines. These are selfish people who are only concerned about themselves and will put the nation and the nation's people at risk for cheap political points. And they need to be called out for that. And the people need to see them for what they really are, and that they will go to any lengths to bash even a good initiative to store cheap to score cheap political points, and they have to be called out for it, and people need to see them for what they are.
And certainly, Susan, you know, they are using every possible thing as a political tool, as a political football. And sometimes it begs to question uh, the mental capacity of some of the people in the AP and UFC, particularly in Parliament, when they can use almost everything, including in many instances they use COVID, where people were ill, many people lost their lives, and they continue to use things like COVID as a political football, encouraging people not to get vaccinated. And I see a lot of
Mhm.
their minions still having that whisper campaign about the COVID-19 vaccination program. But I want to say in closing, and I'll give you a chance to wrap up after this, that I encourage Guyanese that there's adequate vaccination available. Vaccines are available for the adult population, and efforts are being made as we speak to try to secure and to procure vaccines that could be administered on our children. The protocols and the details are being worked out, but I want to make the point that as a government, we are concerned about the health and welfare of our people. We are not concerned about purchasing vaccines and medical supplies from friends and families, and when you find out billions of dollars of expired drugs are stored, some in hotel rooms, and all sorts of things, and have to be dumped. We are concerned about protecting our people, and not only protecting them against the COVID-19 virus, but generally ensure that they are healthy and their health and well-being are being taken care of. So I want to encourage persons who have reached the age to take the vaccine to do so. I took the vaccine, Susan, you took the vaccine, the entire cabinet of the People's Progressive Party Civic, and many in the opposition, including Joseph Harmon, took the vaccine, and he took Sputnik too, and is still alive. We're all still alive and well. So I want to encourage you not to be fooled, not to be misled, but to ensure that you get vaccinated, that you protect yourselves and protect your families. Susan, I give you a chance to wrap the program up.
Thanks, Eddie. So, the vaccination program, the Because We Care cash grant, the scholarship program, our housing drive, all of these initiatives have been rolled out in a way that we have made all of these services accessible to ordinary Guyanese, regardless of your race, religion, regardless of where you live. We have gone on the ground. Ministers have taken on this responsibility personally and have been in every region helping to distribute cash grants, the COVID 19 vaccine, scholarship program, because we understand that there's a bigger picture here. The health, well being, and education of our nation and of our people will always come first. And that, like I said, is what separates us from the opposition. Our values, our party's values, and the values of the people that make up our government set us apart from those in the opposition. And so, if they cannot even join us and help us to roll out these good initiatives, which can be something that can help them politically, by demonstrating their willingness to put the people first. But they are so narrow minded, they are so selfish, they are so caught up and power hungry that they cannot even support good initiatives. And they will suffer for it. And they will suffer politically. And they continue to suffer. And people see that, and so they will remain visionless, and they will remain in opposition because they don't seem to be showing any signs of changing or improving. As a matter of fact, they are getting worse. And as you referenced a little bit earlier, the behavior in the National Assembly, and the things that they say, the things that come out of their mouth, is astonishing sometimes, and it is not productive. It is not what we need. At this point, we have to put our people first, and we will continue to do that in government. And Guyanese can look forward to receiving services from our government. They have nothing to fear. The wealth distribution in this country will be equitable. All Guyanese will benefit, and we will all move forward as one people, and we will be safe, and we will continue to make resources available to show that the education and the health of our people will always come first. And so we have always made the biggest investments, every budget, to make sure that health and education receive the largest allocation, because we need our people to be healthy, we need our people to be qualified, and we need our people to move this country forward. And they have a government that will always protect them and put them first.
So thank you so much, Susan, for joining me this evening to have this discussion
Sure,
and
Eddie.
to talk about what has been taking place under the People's Progressive Party civic government. As you're aware, citizens, that we are celebrating, or we are observing for that matter, our first anniversary as a government, as the People's Progressive Party civic government returned to office, managing to rescue democracy, which was under threat just below 12 months ago, when there were attempts, naked attempts, to steal our elections. We have been returned to office. It's the will of the people of this country. They voted for the People's Progressive Party Civic to return to office. And we want to assure you that as a government, we will continue to serve you, the people of this country, to ensure that your needs are met and that we advance you. Every single household, every single citizen will advance as we seek to distribute wealth and to ensure that our people, the Guyanese people, live a comfortable life. Again, Minister Rodrigues, I want to thank you for being here with me this evening. It was a pleasure to have this discussion.
Thank you, Eddie, and good night to your viewers.
Have a good evening, everyone.